The marathon is a long-distance running event with an official distance of 42.195 kilometers, usually run as a road race. The event was instituted in commemoration of the fabled run of the Greek soldier Theodippides, a messenger from the Battle of Marathon to Athens. The marathon was one of the original modern Olympic events in 1896, though the distance did not become standardized until 1921. More than 500 marathons are held throughout the world each year, with the vast majority of competitors being recreational athletes, as larger marathons can have tens of thousands of participants. History. Origin. The name marathon comes from the legend of Theodippides, a Greek messenger. The legend states that he was sent from the battlefield of Marathon to Athens to announce that the Persians had been defeated in the Battle of Marathon, which took place in August or September 490 BC. It is said that he ran the entire distance without stopping and burst into the assembly, exclaiming Nu Epsilon Nu Iota Kappa Eta Kappa Alpha Mu Epsilon Nu, before collapsing and dying. The account of the run from Marathon to Athens first appears in Plutarch's On the Glory of Athens in the 1st century AD, which quotes from Heraclides Ponticus's lost work, giving the runner's name as either Thesippus of Virtius or Eucles. Lucian of Samosata also gives the story, but names the runner Philippides. There is debate about the historical accuracy of this legend. The Greek historian Herodotus, the main source for the Greco-Persian Wars, mentions Theodippides as the messenger who ran from Athens to Sparta asking for help, and then ran back, a distance of over 240 kilometers each way. In some Herodotus manuscripts, the name of the runner between Athens and Sparta is given as Philippides. Herodotus makes no mention of a messenger sent from Marathon to Athens, and relates that the main part of the Athenian army, having fought and won the grueling battle, and fearing a naval raid by the Persian fleet against an undefended Athens, marched quickly back from the battle to Athens, arriving the same day. In 1879, Robert Browning wrote the poem Theodippides. Browning's poem, his composite story, became part of late 19th century popular culture and was accepted as a historic legend. There are two roads out of the battlefield of Marathon towards Athens, one more mountainous towards the north whose distance is about 34.5 kilometers, and another flatter but longer towards the south with a distance of 40.8 kilometers. It has been argued that the ancient runner took the more difficult northern road because at the time of the battle there were still Persian soldiers in the south of the plain. Mount Penteli stands between Marathon and Athens, which means that, if Theodippides actually made his famous run after the battle, he had to run around the mountain, either to the north or to the south. The latter and more obvious route matches almost exactly the modern Marathon-Athens highway, which follows the lie of the land southwards from Marathon Bay and along the coast, then takes a gentle but protracted climb westwards towards the eastern approach to Athens, between the foothills of Mounts Hymettus and Penteli, and then gently downhill to Athens proper. This route, as it existed when the Olympics were revived in 1896, was approximately 40 kilometers long, and this was the approximate distance originally used for marathon races. However, there have been suggestions that Theodippides might have followed another route, a westward climb along the eastern and northern slopes of Mount Penteli to the pass of Dionysos, and then a straight southward downhill path to Athens. This route is considerably shorter, some 35 kilometers, but includes a very steep initial climb of more than 5 kilometers. Modern Olympics marathon. When the modern Olympics began in 1896, the initiators and organizers were looking for a great popularizing event, recalling the ancient glory of Greece. The idea of a marathon race came from Michel Braille, who wanted the event to feature in the first modern Olympic Games in 1896 in Athens. The idea was heavily supported by Pierre de Coubertin, the founder of the modern Olympics, as well as by the Greeks. The Greeks staged a selection race for the Olympic marathon on 10 March 1896 that was won by Charalaos Vasilakos in 3 hours and 18 minutes. The winner of the first Olympic marathon, on 10 April 1896, was Spyridon Lewis, a Greek water carrier, in 2 hours 58 minutes and 50 seconds. The marathon of the 2004 Summer Olympics was run on the traditional route from Marathon to Athens, ending at Panathinaikos Stadium, the venue for the 1896 Summer Olympics. That men's marathon was won by Italian Stefano Baldini in 2 hours 10 minutes and 55 seconds. A record time for this route until the non-Olympics Athens Classic Marathon of 2014, when Felix Candy lowered the course record to 2 hours 10 minutes and 37 seconds. The women's marathon was introduced of the 1984 Summer Olympics and was won by Joan Benoit of the United States with a time of 2 hours 24 minutes and 52 seconds. Since the modern games were founded, it has become a tradition for the men's Olympic marathon to be the last event of the athletics calendar, with a finish inside the Olympic Stadium, often within hours of, or even incorporated into, the closing ceremonies. The Olympic men's record is 2:06:32, set at the 2008 Summer Olympics by Samuel Kamau Wanjiru of Kenya. The Olympic women's record is 2:23:07, set at the 2012 Summer Olympics by Tiki Jelena of Ethiopia. The men's London 2012 Summer Olympic marathon winner was Stephen Kiprotich of Uganda. Per capita, the Kalenjin ethnic group of Rift Valley Province in Kenya has produced a highly disproportionate share of marathon and track and field winners. Marathon mania Johnny Hayes' victory at the 1908 Summer Olympics contributed to the early growth of long-distance running and marathoning in the United States. Later that year, races around the holiday season including the Empire City Marathon held on New Year's Day 1909 in Yonkers, New York, marked the early running craze referred to as Marathon Mania. Following the 1908 Olympics, the first 5 amateur marathons in New York City were held on days that held special meanings to ethnic communities. Thanksgiving Day, the day after Christmas, New Year's Day, Washington's birthday, and Lincoln's birthday. Frank Shorter's victory in the marathon at the 1972 Summer Olympics would spur national enthusiasm for the sport more intense than that which followed Hayes' win 64 years earlier. By 2009, an estimated 467,000 runners completed a marathon within the United States. This can be compared to 143,000 in 1980. Nowadays, various marathons are held all around the world on a nearly weekly basis. Inclusion of women. For a long time after the Olympic marathon started, there were no long-distance races, such as the marathon, for women. Although a few women had run the marathon distance, they were not included in any official results. Marie-Louise Ledru has been credited as the first woman to race a marathon. Violet Piercy has been credited as the first woman to be officially timed in a marathon. Arlene Pieper became the first woman to officially finish a marathon in the United States when she completed the Pikes Peak Marathon in Manitou Springs, Colorado, in 1959. Catherine Switzer was the first woman to run the Boston Marathon, officially. However, Switzer's entry, which was accepted through her oversight in the screening process, was in flagrant violation of the rules, and she was treated as an interloper once the error was discovered. Bobby Gibb had completed the Boston race unofficially the previous year, and was later recognized by the race organizers as the women's winner for that year, as well as 1967 and 1968. In 2015, Afghanistan held its first marathon. Among those who ran the entire marathon was one woman, Zainab, aged 25, who thus became the first Afghan woman to run in a marathon within her own country. Distance. The length of an Olympic marathon was not precisely fixed at first, but the marathon races in the first few Olympic Games were about 40 kilometers. roughly the distance from Marathon to Athens by the longer, flatter route. The exact length depended on the route established for each venue. 1908 Olympics. The International Olympic Committee agreed in 1907 that the distance for the 1908 London Olympic Marathon would be about 25 miles or 40 kilometers. The organizers decided on a course of 26 miles from the start at Windsor Castle to the royal entrance to the White City Stadium, followed by a lap of the track, finishing in front of the royal box. The course was later altered to use a different entrance to the stadium, followed by a partial lap of 385 yards to the same finish. The modern 42.195 km standard distance for the marathon was set by the International Amateur Athletic Federation in May 1921 directly from the length used at the 1908 Summer Olympics in London. IAAF and world records. An official IAAF marathon course is 42.195 km. Course officials add a short course prevention factor of up to 1 meter per kilometer to their measurements to reduce the risk of a measuring error, producing a length below the minimum distance. For events governed by IAAF rules, it is mandatory that the route be marked so that all competitors can see the distance covered in kilometers. The rules make no mention of the use of miles. The IAAF will only recognize world records that are established at events that are run under IAAF rules. For major events, it is customary to publish competitors' timings at the midway mark and also at 5 km splits. Marathon runners can be credited with world records for lesser distances recognized by the IAAF if such records are established while the runner is running a marathon and completes the marathon course. Marathon races. Annually, more than 500 marathons are organized worldwide. Some of these belong to the Association of International Marathons and Distance Races, which has grown since its foundation in 1982 to embrace over 300 member events in 83 countries and territories. The marathons of Berlin, Boston, Chicago, London, New York City and Tokyo form the biennial World Marathon Majors Series, awarding $500,000 annually to the best overall male and female performers in the series. In 2006, the editors of Runner's World selected a World's Top 10 Marathons, in which the Amsterdam, Honolulu, Paris, Rotterdam, and Stockholm marathons were featured along with the 5 original World Marathon Majors events. Other notable large marathons include United States Marine Corps Marathon, Los Angeles, and Rome. The Boston Marathon is the world's oldest annual marathon, inspired by the success of the 1896 Olympic Marathon and held every year since 1897 to celebrate Patriots' Day, a holiday mark in the beginning of the American Revolution, thereby purposely linking Athenian and American struggle for democracy. The oldest annual marathon in Europe is the Košice Peace Marathon, held since 1924 in Košice, Slovakia. The historic Polytechnic Marathon was discontinued in 1996. The Athens Classic Marathon traces the route of the 1896 Olympic course, starting in Marathon on the eastern coast of Attica, site of the Battle of Marathon of 490 BCE, and ending at the Panathinaikos Stadium in Athens. The Midnight Sun Marathon is held in Tromsø, Norway at 70 degrees north. Using unofficial and temporary courses, measured by GPS, races of marathon distance are now held at the North Pole, in Antarctica and over desert terrain. Other unusual marathons include the Great Wall Marathon on the Great Wall of China, the Big Five Marathon among the safari wildlife of South Africa, the Great Tibetan Marathon, a marathon in an atmosphere of Tibetan Buddhism at an altitude of 3,500 meters, and the Polar Circle Marathon on the permanent ice cap of Greenland. The Intercontinental Istanbul-Eurasia Marathon is the only marathon where participants run over 2 continents during the course of a single event. In the Detroit Free Press Marathon, participants cross the U.S.-Canadian border twice. The Niagara Falls International Marathon includes one international border crossing, via the Peace Bridge from Buffalo, New York, United States to Fort Erie, Ontario, Canada. Wheelchair division. Many marathons feature a wheelchair division. Typically, those in the wheelchair racing division start their races earlier than their running counterparts. The first wheelchair marathon was in 1974 in Toledo, Ohio, won by Bob Hall in 2:54. Hall competed in the 1975 Boston Marathon and finished in 2:58, inaugurating the introduction of wheelchair divisions into the Boston Marathon. From 1977 the race was declared the U.S. National Wheelchair Championship. The Boston Marathon awards $10,000 to the winning pushroom athlete. Ernst Van Dyke has won the Boston Marathon wheelchair division 10 times and holds the world record at 1:18:27, set in Boston in 2004. John Driscoll won 8 times and holds the women's world record at 1:34:22. The New York City Marathon banned wheelchair entrance in 1977, citing safety concerns, but then voluntarily allowed Bob Hall to compete after the State Division of Human Rights ordered the marathon to show cause. The division ruled in 1979 that the New York City Marathon and New York Roadrunners Club had to allow wheelchair athletes to compete, and confirmed this at appeal in 1980. But the state Supreme Court ruled in 1981 that a ban on wheelchair races was not discriminatory, as the marathon was historically a foot race. However, by 1986 14 wheelchair athletes were competing, and an official wheelchair division was added to the marathon in 2000.